Whether you're conquering professional exams or personal milestones, we welcome you to Beyond Clean's Confidence Certification, the 52-week test prep podcast series. With expert insights, actionable tips, and engaging discussions, we'll break down the toughest concepts in sterile processing and build your confidence every step of the way. Join host Sarah B. Cruz as she embarks on a mission to help you not just prep for tests, but craft your success story. And now your host, Sarah B. Cruz.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Confidence Certification, a 52-week test prep podcast series to equip you to take your sterile processing career to the next level. I'm your host, Sarah B. Cruz, and on this episode, I am just going to be very direct. I personally have been told I can be quite frank, and that's when I remind people that I'm Sarah. No, listen, this is who I am as a person. If you haven't caught on to this by this episode in the podcast series, I don't know how to help you. This is just who I am. No, but seriously, this entire podcast series, we've been discussing a variety of tips and tricks, different ways we can work and get ready for our certification tests. We've had special guests provide insights, and we have quite literally discussed all the things we should or could do to aid us in our testing conquest. All that's left is to just take the test. Just take the test. Yes, my friends, it is time to put the pedal to the metal, the shift into gear, or whatever car analogy you may or may not want to use. It's just time to do the dang thing. Now, I know that it was inevitable that we were going to get to this point, right? And the inevitability can be scary. I know that the idea of just taking a test can be daunting. It may have been looming over our heads or even been a thought that we pushed to the way back of our mind. But like every inevitability, the time is upon us. Honestly, it has been this entire time. We had just become so comfortable in saying and knowing that we were getting ready and preparing for the test that we've kind of gotten stuck in feeling like that's enough. So when we come back from our break, we'll discuss some reasons why we may have been stopping ourselves from signing up and delaying all the opportunities and possibilities that await us after we take our test. We'll be right back. It's time for our mid-episode confidence boost, where we focus on a key sterile processing test concept. Now, there's no guarantee these concepts will be on the test that you take, but they are key concepts to the workplace and are discussed in the literature. Today, we'll cover types of water. The two most referred to types of water in sterile processing are utility and critical. Utility water is the water that comes from the tap that might require further treatment to achieve certain specifications. Utility water is mainly used for flushing, washing, and rinsing. The second type of water is critical water. Critical water is water that is extensively treated to ensure that the microorganisms and inorganic and organic material are removed from the water. A final submicron filtration could also be a part of the treatment process. Critical water is mainly used as a final rinse or for steam generation. That's going to wrap this week's mid-session confidence boost. Good luck. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we are having a very honest conversation with ourselves about just taking the test. You know, preparing to take a test does take time. Let's not ignore the fact that learning the contents, studying, and other different ways that we're prepping does, in fact, take time. Now, whether or not it takes long or short is really just based on your own abilities or your own limitations, right? But there's a lot to be said about getting ready for a test. There is also a lot to be said about the variety of self-made obstacles that come with saying, I'm preparing for a test. How long have you been preparing for this test, folks? Now, you don't have to tell anybody, but you can totally tell me. Just reach out to me at info@beyondclean.net, or you can just give me a little personal message on LinkedIn. I promise I won't tell anybody. But how long have you been getting ready to take your tests? Or, oh, I'm going to sign up for it this next time. Or, oh, I missed the date to sign up for it. Shucks, got to wait another 3 months, right? How long have you been doing that? When I failed my first 3 tests, after you fail your certification tests, I had to wait a certain number of months to sign up and take it again. The test wasn't necessarily readily available through this accrediting body. However, I loved the downtime in between the tests. Now, unfortunately for me, I couldn't prolong and really enjoy that downtime between the tests because I had to pass my test to keep my job. But I personally have a number of colleagues that have taken the test and, not passed it. No tea, no shade. Sometimes these things happen. Who am I to judge, right? Miss 4 times is a charm. Yeah. But, they take their test, they don't pass it, and they don't take their test again for like another year. And I'm not saying that there's an appropriate amount of time to take your test again. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. But what did they do during that year that made it productive? Did it have to be a year? Sometimes we get caught up in this phenomena called task paralysis. Now, I did not come up with that term, but the first time I heard it, I couldn't believe how accurate and called out I was. No, I was definitely called out by task paralysis, because task paralysis is this idea that when you have your to-do list, it doesn't necessarily motivate you to get it done. It just kind of gets you stuck on the first one. Now, I know that all of us are guilty of having a to-do list that we add things onto that we've already done just so we can check it off. So we feel a little momentum, right? Yeah, I know we've all done that. That's fine. You don't have to tell anybody. Your secret's safe with me. But when you combine that with the inability to move through your tasks because you're feeling overwhelmed, because you feel like one of them might take too long, or you frankly just don't want to do any of them, task paralysis becomes a self-made obstacle. Now, whether there's certain conditions behind why you're feeling anxious about certain things, I won't speak to that. Everybody has their own isms that they're working through, right? But this self-made obstacle, this perception of, I don't want to do it, this looks boring, or this really scares me, or this is going to be daunting, that's where task paralysis is born. And it's very close to its cousin, progress procrastination, right? Progress procrastination is different from task paralysis because progress procrastination is you're already in the task that you were probably not wanting to do, and then you're drawing it out, right? You're making it drag along, and something that should have taken you 30 minutes is now taking you 3 weeks. Hello, my name is Sarah, and I suffer from progress procrastination. Seriously, I've never felt more called out in my life than task paralysis and progress procrastination. But, this is an example of the self-made obstacle because it is bringing that inevitability to the forefront. Eventually, you will have to finish this task. So you start the task, and now you're in the task, the duty, the responsibility, and you can't even see the finish line. Or maybe you're so close to the finish line, you're like, that's good enough. How many of us have done that, right? We've started a project, given it 100%, but then when it's 80% done, we're like, that's good enough, folks. So those two major components mixed into our anxieties, self-doubt, or anything else that we have come up with that are keeping us from just taking the test are the things that I want to call out today. So if you're listening to this episode, the universe has spoken. No, but if you're hearing this episode, this is the first one you're actually hearing, that's even more impactful, then this is your sign. It is time to sign up to take your test. Okay? It doesn't matter how long you've been putting it off. It doesn't matter if you're feeling anxious about taking the test. I want you to consider all of those things. Make sure you've listened to the rest of the podcast series and you've really gotten ready to take your exam. It's important to be prepared, but you can't sit in the preparing state. And don't forget that when you sign up for your test, you can select the date that you're going to take your tests with one accrediting body, and then the other accrediting body only has it on certain dates. It may not even be open yet for you to sign up for. But the power of setting the date is going to give you that end goal that you're pushing towards. Please make sure that if you're signing up for the test, you have been doing what you need to do. Notice how I didn't say, quote, are ready. Because for many of us, we've been ready this whole time and just too scared to step forward. So for today's homework, I would like you to go and check out whichever accrediting body you're going to take your certification test to and look up what the sign-up process is. Sometimes you have to do it online. Sometimes you have to send in paper. Do you have the money to sign up for it? Looking at the registration process is going to help us make that last to-do list and the final push to finalizing and reaching our certification goals. Thank you, everybody, for joining me for today's episode. As always, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Talk soon. And that's going to do it for this week's episode. For more sterile processing education and resources, make sure to visit beyondclean.net or follow Beyond Clean on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to check out over 1,000 SPD-related videos at youtube.com/beyondclean. If you have any questions or comments for the show, you can reach out to info@beyondclean.net. Finally, make sure to download the Beyond Clean mobile app on the Apple and Android app stores so that you don't miss a future episode of any of the other awesome Beyond Clean podcasts. My name's Sterile Cruz, and you've been listening to Confidence Certification. Until next time, keep fighting dirty and pass that test with confidence.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast series are of Sarah B. Cruz only and do not represent the companies she works for or collaborates with.